Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Not Your Average Tea Time podcast. I'm your host, Tabaria, joined by Christian. And Christian, you talked a little bit about this before the show started here. You started talking about how Jets going a little soft with the hard knocks. They decided they're not going to, showcase people getting cut. You really think they went soft, or you think it's going to be the best hard knock season ever?
I mean, it might be a really good season. I thought the Detroit Lions won last year. They switched some things up, but to kind of take away some access that we're used to having year in and year out, year in and year out with Hard Knocks, and a big part of it is to see the 52nd, 53rd guy of the roster get the phone call that he made the team, he made the cut, he made the initial active roster. That's one part of at least my favorite parts about Hard Knocks. And then the other part is seeing some guys get that phone call or get the tap on their shoulder. Hey, coach needs to see you. Bring your iPad or whatever. Um, I mean, I think it's a crucial part of the show that I don't know. I mean, maybe you don't need it, but it certainly, I think, brings in viewership, brings in clips, brings in clicks for Hard Knocks and for the show in itself. So I feel like they're just kind of taking away a part of the show. Like you guys are salty that you guys got selected for it. I mean, you kind of, I think this was like the worst kept secret. I don't know why it took so long for the NFL to decide that it will be the New York Jets to be on Hard Knocks. It seemed like it was kind of the slam dunk team once Aaron Rodgers signed with them. I know the New York Jets have been loud and vocal about not wanting to be on it. I suppose that's probably the only reason why it took so long for them to officially make the announcement. But I think this is kind of a little bit of a soft stance by the Jets. I understand they didn't want to do it. This is probably their way of saying, oh, well, you're going to force us to do it. Well, then we're going to take some of these key elements that we're used to seeing every year in Hard Knocks out of it. Just because we're being forced to do it, we're going to do it our way then.
I think that's exactly what ended up happening. And from all reports, like they were going to be the team regardless, unless the Chicago Bears stepped up and said, "We'll do it here." They were not going to go to Washington with that sale being under the investigation and stuff like that from the owner Dan Snyder. So it was either Chicago, the Saints, who aren't really a big draw, I'm sorry, or the Jets. Aaron Rodgers, big expectations, big city lights. So they waited to the last minute for either the Jets or the Bears to volunteer. And both teams were pretty adamant that they didn't want to do it. So what ended up happening was they waited to the last minute. And so the Jets are the team here. And they also reported today for a training camp. Tomorrow's the first practice. And I'm gonna tell you what, I've been glued to it. I mean, so much just hype, excitement around this. I'm gonna be probably glued to my phone tomorrow, to be honest with you. Just checking in on training camp stuff, seeing how Aaron Rodgers is looking with the offense, seeing how Zach Wilson's looking. It's pretty early in the process, but I really want to see how they connect with each other and the offense and how that goes forward here. So fun times to be a Jets fan, and pretty soon all the teams are going to be reporting, and we'll talk about those teams and stuff as it goes on here. So let's get into it, Christian. Let's talk about the AFC South here. We're going to do the AFC South preview. This is this episode here. Let's start off with the Jacksonville Jaguars. All right, I'll lead off with this one. Obviously, the biggest question mark is how can Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars improve off the last year's playoff loss performance. They rallied back from 27 nothing to beat the Chargers, which I think they should have still lost, but shoulda, coulda, woulda have. Can he take that next step and continue to stack playoff game victories? That's what I'm looking for here. And a big question I have about him and his development is what are the odds that he gets Carson Wentz by Doug Peterson? What do you think about that thought? Carson Wentz had an
Yeah,
amazing year. We got to the playoffs, got hurt unfortunately, but that next year he was never the same. Is it just because of injury, or was it a Doug Peterson effect? I don't know.
right. I think it's totally different with Trevor Lawrence. I think it's just totally different. Um, I would make the argument that last year was his rookie year. Again, that was just a circus clown show that he dealt with year one under Urban Meyer. A lot of the players would echo those same sentiments that were around the team a couple of years ago. I think it's a totally different story with Trevor Lawrence, and I don't know if it's comparable at all with Carson Wentz. It seemed like that was more of a Carson Wentz problem more than anything. Um, Seemed like he kind of lost the locker room. The team really rallied around and behind Nick Foles, and obviously they went on that magical run that they ended up going on. Carson Wentz got the keys back and never really was able to take over from there. Um, Again, this just seems like a totally different vibe. I think you're absolutely right. Can Trevor Lawrence make that next step now? And okay, let's not forget, I mean, they got off to a pretty slow start last year. It was really that second half of the season where things started to click for that team. And obviously, they went on that run late in the season. They ended up winning their division. And then, of course, the a miraculous comeback victory against the Los Angeles Chargers in the second half to advance. And, they very well could have taken down the Kansas City Chiefs, as crazy as that sounds. That
Yeah.
game was not all that far out of reach. If I'm not mistaken, I think Jacksonville had a lead at halftime, or close to halftime. And then, of course, Pat Mahomes got banged up, but of course, Chiefs did Chiefs things. Patrick Mahomes did Patrick Mahomes things, and that's how that ended up turning out. But yeah, I mean, it's probably the most exciting time to be a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, dating back to like the early 2000s. I mean, it's been that long since they've been a really competitive team. They've had their little stints with David Garrard at quarterback years ago, but it never really felt like it really had too much behind it. Now your future is bright. You got Doug Peterson, who yeah, he wore out his welcome there in Philadelphia, but I mean he is a Super Bowl winning head coach. And of course you got the one of the young faces of the league in Trevor Lawrence behind that franchise. So exciting times for Jacksonville right now.
Especially when you think about how they just added Calvin Ridley. And I'm very intrigued to see how much he has left in the tank. Can he be that Calvin Ridley we saw before the suspension last year, where he got caught gambling, not on the Falcons to lose, but on them to win, I think, maybe. But he got suspended for a year. He's back, and there's a lot of hype and excitement around him. They're saying his route running is still pretty crisp. Looks like he never lost a beat, and he's coming just to show everybody he's still him. So that's going to be pivotal for Trevor Lawrence and his development to take that next step. Because he had a bunch of good receivers. He had a good tight end, Evan Ingram. They just signed to a long-term, longish kind of deal, 3 years, I believe it was. So he's basically a wide receiver. Um, Christian Kirk, they signed to that deal that blew everybody's mind. So Trevor Lawrence has some weapons. Travis Etienne in the backfield. So can he take the next step? And here's a question for you. Why would Dalvin Cook signing there be a bad idea if we want to continue the development of Trevor Lawrence?
I don't think it'll be a bad idea. I think it would just, what exactly are you trying to do with Travis Etienne, and are you trying to limit his touches? If so, could that hurt the offense? Would you be doing the offense a disservice by taking away touches from him? Because we've seen once they traded James Robinson to the Jets last year, and it was, Travis Etienne was a full go at running back. I mean, he really turned it on, and he kind of proved them right in drafting him in the later in the first round a couple years ago. And then of course Urban Meyer. We kind of discussed this a couple weeks ago with the Falcons working Bijan Robinson in the slot. Urban Meyer was working ETN in the slot, and obviously that didn't go really anywhere. And again, once they traded James Robinson last year, and Travis Etienne was the bell cow running back in that offense, he looked like the Travis Etienne that we remember seeing back in his Clemson days. I think Dalvin Cook still has some left in the tank. I do, and I think that signing could make sense. Depending on how much exactly they're looking to run the ball. He is from Florida. I know all the signs point to maybe him signing with the Miami Dolphins. He's more so from that area than the Jacksonville area, but if Miami doesn't pull the trigger, I mean, I could see that actually making some type of sense. I mean, not even just talking about taking away touches from Travis Etienne, but I mean, it is the running back position and it is football. Players do get hurt. You got to have insurance behind these guys, and Dalvin Cook would certainly be a nice insurance policy to have behind the younger Etienne.
I know for sure though, the Patriots are now currently the betting favorite to sign him. The
I've
last
seen
time
that.
we said something like this, DeAndre Hopkins was the Titans were the betting favorite to sign him. So that kind of worries me a bit. However, also today, the Patriots brought in Leonard Fournette and another guy, I forgot who it was, and for veteran visits. So I don't know, maybe they're doing it as a kind of a scare tactic to kind of push Dalvin Cook to sign there. If he was holding up, maybe they've moved on and he's going to be a Jet tomorrow. One of the two.
And not to bounce around all over the place, but the Jets did place Brees Hall on PUP. Could that be a landing spot? I mean, I know that's also been another team rumored for Dalvin Cook. Could that up the urgency for the Jets to maybe give Dalvin Cook a call?
It could and it should. According to Brees, he's healthy and it's just a precaution. He's ready for week one, but the Jets definitely want a slow play. And this is just another example. As you can tell, they want to take this thing slow with him, make sure he's 100% before they put him back out there taking hits again. So, Dalvin Cook, come up north. Let's win a ring together. Let's let's pivot a little bit here to what they did in the draft. So in last year in the draft, they got Anton Harrison, the tackle from Oklahoma, to help ease the burden. I think they probably knew Cam Robinson was going to be suspended before we did, long before we did. So they probably said, okay, we need a little tackle help here. So they took him in the first round. But I know they also took Antonio Johnson, the safety out of Texas A&M. How did he fall to the fifth round? Like there were talks of this guy going round one to the Jets at 13 and egg on everybody's face. He went to the Texans in the the Jaguars in the fifth round. How did that happen?
Right? And local guy too, from I mean, somewhat local from East St. Louis. I mean, borderline uh, Missouri, but from East St. Louis. I remember when he came out of high school, very highly touted, like you said, lands at Texas A&M, and it seems like every year you got players that are talked about first, second rounders, and they end up falling third, fourth, fifth round guys. I mean, I remember, and this was more so due to injury, but Eddie Jackson years ago, coming out of Alabama, he had the broken leg though. Projected to be like a second round pick, and he ends up falling to the Bears in the fourth round. So, you know, and obviously, if he ends up having a Eddie Jackson type career, I mean, that would be viewed as a success, especially in the fifth round. Different players, though, different play styles, but yeah, I mean that seems like it could be a pick that may not see the impact right away year one, but I know they got like the veteran Rashawn Jenkins ahead of him in the defensive backfield there at safety, so learn from him for a year or two, and maybe he takes over the reins from there. But a value pick is always, again, might not see the fruits of labor early on, but could very well pay off in the end.
It for sure can. And Eddie Jackson, I saw today, he said, I'm going to have the best year a safety ever had, or my best year ever as a safety, something like that today. He's talking that talk. And I like
He
to see
is.
it from him because when he's on, he's an interception machine. He's a ball hawk back there. So hopefully Antonio Johnson can have a somewhat similar career here. But let's pivot to the Tennessee Titans, Christian. And one thing I want to say before we talk about them, have you seen all of these teams dropping new uniforms today or lately?
Yeah, yeah. So, I like seeing that. I mean, it's exciting.
It's really exciting. The Titans
Did,
have teased a new Oilers logo
oh, okay.
jersey. I don't know if it's going to be black or if it's going to be a throwback to the traditional one. So that's on the
Hmm.
horizon. The Colts have teased a new jersey. Uh, we got the Bucks earlier in the offseason, got New Jersey. A bunch of teams have. But today, before we get back to the Titans, some random guy leaked that the Jets were getting throwback jerseys.
Really?
they were like Jets were doing media day. They had CJ Uzama behind like a black curtain, and somebody pulled open the curtain a little bit, and the dude was recording, and he showed these Jets throwback jerseys. They're fire. So
Are they?
they're
Are they
fire.
like
So like
Joe Namath throwback jerseys, or do you know like what year they're going
Joe
back to?
Klecko, Joe
Okay.
Klecko, I think. I think it's Joe Klecko. We'll see though. I was gonna go ahead and buy my Aaron Rodgers jersey, but now I think I might hold off to see how these come out. You know,
You
that
know,
might be the
you know
move. My jer-
what you should do is take that Elijah Moore jersey, just get it customized. I think they have people that like unstitch the last name and they put a new one on.
They do actually. I was gonna do that, but the one I got is green, and I really want the white Aaron Rodgers jersey, the white and the black
Okay.
one. So I said,
Okay.
I'll hold off on that. I'll hold off on that.
I see the Seahawks are bringing back their retro uniforms, some of the cleanest
That's the
uniforms
other one.
that are around. Yeah, the Seahawks, that's just straight fire.
They killed that.
I mean,
Kudos to them for doing that.
to quote Deion Sanders, look good, play good. I mean, that's the definition right there. Those are some sweet uniforms.
All right, let's get back to it. Tennessee Titans. So, questions I have for them going to this season is how much does Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry have in the tank? Derrick Henry, I'm not worried about it till I see it, but Ryan Tannehill, they drafted his replacement. Still got Will Levis there. What are they doing at quarterback? Who's the answer? I honestly think that this training camp will get a good answer for what their plans is for the future here. But you got to think that Ryan Tannehill is still there because they just traded for They just signed DeAndre Hopkins to a 2-year, $26 million deal here. So they got him some help. They also got wide receiver. You can say Treylon Burks some help because he was on the other side sitting here like, I'm trying my best, but we need somebody else. So they got Robert Woods, Treylon Burks, and DeAndre Hopkins, which isn't the worst wide receiving core now that you added him. So what are your thoughts on the Titans here? What are you looking to see as the season progresses in training camp and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, I think they're one of the true wild card teams in the NFL this year. I'm not really sure what to expect out of them. I mean, seems like every year there's really no expectations behind the Tennessee Titans, except for maybe last year, and that was actually a year where they kind of just stunk up the place. But Mike Vrabel has, ever since taking over as head coach there, is I feel like outdone his outgained his expectations each and every year. Again, besides last year, but like you said, I mean, if you were to ask me 4 or 5 months ago if Ryan Tannehill would still be on the roster in July, I would have said there's no way in hell. I know the new GM, Ray Cathron or Cathrone. He said in his introductory press conference, I think it was, that no, Ryan Tannehill's our quarterback. He's here to stay. He'll be our quarterback this season. And I remember I just thought he was BSing, and here we are in July, heading into training camp. He's still there, and all signs point to him being the starting quarterback. Malik Willis and Will Levis seems like they're kind of battling it out for that number two job. That neither of them are really impressing enough to challenge Ryan Tannehill for the starting job just yet. You are able to bring in DeAndre Hopkins. I gotta think that's another sign that Ryan Tannehill will be the quarterback to start the year at least. Not that Tannehill's a world beater, and I'm sure that probably wasn't the reason why Hopkins decided to sign there. I'm sure it was more of a money thing. At least that's what it sounds like. Which, not mad at him. Not mad at him. Just pick your lane. Is it for the money? Are you trying to ring chase? And at least for right now, he's going with the money. Which, again, not mad at him. And could have probably gone to worse teams. But anyways, Derrick Henry, like you said, the time's running out for Derrick Henry. You kind of started seeing it last year. He got a little beat up last year, missed some time. So you know, again, as I said in the beginning, it's really one of the more difficult teams to predict how they might do this season. Defensively, they were able to lock up Jeffrey Simmons. That was huge for their defense. He was an absolute monster. Quinnen Williams on the defensive line for them lately. So there's a
Good
lot
call
of
on the
different
late.
angles that you could go. Yeah. There's a lot of different ways you can go with the Tennessee Titans. I mean, they got the names though. They got some names. They got some playmakers. And I totally forgot that they did add Robert Woods. So I think that between Robert Woods and then the second year now, wide receiver Treylon Burks and DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, Ryan Tannehill, if you're looking to keep a starting job, maybe not just in Tennessee, but for one of the other 31 jobs that are out there, you got to do something with this offense. I mean, they're you got
They're
an
giving
eight,
you all the tools. They're giving you all the
exactly,
tools,
exactly,
all the weapons, and they also, yeah, like if you don't produce here, they're gonna blow this thing up,
right,
and you're gonna be out of a job. You're gonna be backing up. They're gonna be Carson Wentz, who still
yep,
hasn't signed yet, by the way.
true, very true.
So, here's a quick question for you before we talk about what they did in the draft. What are the odds that Derrick Henry is a Kansas City Chief by the end of the year? Like, if they completely just come out terrible, and the Chiefs are like, yeah, we got Isaiah Pacheco, but he's not Derrick Henry. If we add Derrick Henry to this thing, we can win 2 more Super Bowls with him. Is it, look, just a quick question. Would you
Yeah.
do that trade if you were Veach?
So I love Derrick Henry. No secret about it. I wouldn't do it. I would not do it. They've proven themselves. You invest too much draft capital in that position, it might bite you in the ass. A la Clyde Edwards-Helaire, first round pick.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to, you see it year in and year out. Teams find guys three undrafted free agency, and they're able to become playmakers and have a true impact on offense. And we've seen it last year with Isaiah Pacheco. So no, I don't think I would.
I'm greedy. I think I might pull his.
Although it would be one hell of a sight to see.
At that point, they're almost unstoppable, but they were unstoppable last year for a good portion of their run here. So let's transition here to what they did in the draft. So I'm gonna be honest, Christian, I didn't really like their draft. They took Peter Skoronski at 11. I know he was your boy, and it remains to be seen if they're going to play him at guard or tackle. It sounds like he's going to be a guard here, but they also grabbed Will Levis in the second round, top of the second round here, and he hasn't really been performing well at camp. He can still be the future. He can mature. He can get better, but right now he's not going to really add any value to the team unless he has like a Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson rookie year. And so far, that's not what it's looking like. But they also talked about somebody we grabbed in the last division series preview, Tajay Spears from Tulane, who was an excellent runner, but he kind of fell in the draft because people thought he had bad knees. So they got Tajay Spears, they got Derrick Henry, they drafted Peter Skoronski. Ben Jones isn't there anymore. Ben Jones still out there for the center
Is he?
position.
Oh, true, true. I think I'm thinking of
He's
Ben
still
Powers. I think Powers. I think you're right, but I think I was thinking of Ben Powers, who I think is with the Ravens.
speaking of offensive linemen. It came out today that the Titans were visiting with former Jets tackle George Fant, who's a pretty good starter for the Jets before he got hurt. So, like, they're building an offensive line for Ryan Tannehill, whoever's back there to succeed. With him, George Fant, whoever they're going to do at center, Peter Skoronski at guard. I don't know who's the left tackle. They lost Taylor Lewan too, didn't they?
Yep.
Yeah, they got. Maybe they still got some questions on the offensive line, but they're trying to do something to kind of fill that there. But what did you think of their draft? What do you think? How do you think Will Levis will project in the future here?
I didn't hate their draft. I mean, they got a couple guys that I did like. You mentioned them, Tajay Spears. Now, the reason why he did fall is because I think he tore his ACL not once but twice in his college career. So, that's probably where those knee concerns come from. But he was absolutely like the best player, I feel like, at the Senior Bowl. I mean, he really turned it on there. And again, just last season in general was a key reason why the Green Wave had the season that they did, ending in a bowl game victory against your USC Trojans. So I'll bring that one up anytime I
I
can.
don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk
um,
about that.
when it comes to Peter Skoronski, I don't know. I thought, and you just mentioned how they're without Taylor Lewan. Seems like they might still have a question there at left tackle. I thought Broderick Jones would have been the right pick for the Tennessee Titans there. Instead, he goes to the Steelers. But They draft Skoronski, which, all the talk has been his short arms or whatever, and it seems like left tackle or tackle in general is a position where that's a measurable you have to have. And I think it's out there that there's not been a tackle in the NFL to play that has had as short or small of arms as Skoronski currently does. So all signs point to he'll probably be a guard. He'll probably be a damn good guard too, probably a future All Pro, Pro Bowler type of a player. But I just don't know about drafting a guard at 11 or 13, wherever they were at. Um, so that kind of had me scratching my head. I thought Broderick Jones made more sense. And then to answer your question about Will Levis, not the biggest fan, wasn't the biggest fan of his at Kentucky. I thought he was just more so like the media darling, had the crazy stories, was a great interview, and I think he benefited from all the hype and the just the media craziness that was around.
Yep. Looks like we lost Christian here. So, I'm pivot here. While we wait for him to come back into the studio, let's talk a little bit about the Jets being reporting today. Jets reporting today. So, Jets ended up reporting to training camp, and there was a lot of interesting quotes out there about how the Jets are going to succeed and meet the expectations. So, starting off with Quentin Williams, he signed his mega deal, 4 years, $96 million contract. And they said, how do you match those expectations? How do you keep up with those expectations? And he said, honestly, I'm just going to continue to play the ball like I know how to play ball. I'm not worried about anything else. But they did ask him, what are you going to do? Like, who's going to be the breakout player? And they didn't even ask him that, actually. He just said it. He said, watch out for Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson has been putting in the work. He's been getting faster. He's been getting stronger. And he is somebody who you just got to watch out for because he's going to make that next leap. He's been putting in the work. He had a really good year last year, kind of flew under the radar, didn't get any of the hype. But now his opportunity to turn that around here. So Quentin Williams gave out praise profusely to Jermaine Johnson, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how Jermaine Johnson performs. Now, C.J. Mosley also was giving out praise to Jamie and Sherwood here. So this is a different Jets team. They all love each other. They like each other. They're playing for each other, and I think that's the Aaron Rodgers effect. I'm going to call another audible here, another pivot, and I'm going to continue on with the podcast episode. Not sure if Christian will be able to join us here. So in the AFC South preview, the next team is going to be the Houston Texans. And my question for the Texans is, what does this team look like, especially on the defensive side, under this new regime they got here? They got the defensive coordinator from San Francisco, and he's going to try to bring that style over where San Francisco had like a top 2, top 3 defense. He doesn't have the players currently that San Francisco had. There's only one Nick Bosa in the world. There'll probably never be another. But they did take Will Anderson, the edge player from Alabama, 3 overall. So what does his role look like? Can he give you a sliver of what Nick Bosa can give you? He's not as twitchy. He's not as big as Nick Bosa, but he can play. I'm also going to be looking out for Derek Stingley Jr. He was my favorite corner last year. When the Texans took him in front of the Jets, I was like, man, that's really disappointing. I loved Sauce, but I love Derek Stingley Jr. just a little bit more. Derek Stingley Jr. gave me Darrelle Revis vibes. So with that, I was just like, you know what? Give me Derek Stingley Jr. I see Revis 2.0. And Derek Stingley Jr. didn't have the season that he would have wanted to have. Anybody can tell you that the entire Texans didn't. That's why they were picking second overall. So I really just need to see him take the next step. And can he stay healthy? Can he play 16, 17 games and continue to be that ball hawk player that he is? As far as the draft, really just kind of loved everything they did. I think they did pay a lot for Will Anderson, but that was the cost of doing business here with the Cardinals. So they did grab my favorite quarterback in CJ Stroud. He was the most natural passer, and above everything, that tracks at the next level. Like he's not as big or athletic as Anthony Richardson, but he can pass. He's accurate. He's not as magical as Bryce Young, but he's accurate. He's a little bigger, got a little bit more to him. So I did have it on here before. Is there any chance that DeAndre Hopkins comes home? The answer was no. He said, I'm not going there, but I'll play you twice a year. So, those Titans Texans matchups are going to have a little extra juice to them. As far as other draft questions I have here is, what should our expectations be of Will Anderson? Will he be more of a Von Miller who's super twitchy, or will he be more of a Jadeveon Clowney who can stop the run, bigger, faster, will be okay with the sack reduction? I think if he is Jadeveon Clowney and you traded what you traded for him at 3, you're probably slightly disappointed, even though Jadeveon Clowney is a good player. There's another good player who's still on the market. So it'll be really interesting to see where he ends up signing. Also, watch out for wide receiver Tank Dell. Dell's a star. All right. Those are my questions for the Texans. Now we're going to pivot to the Indianapolis Colts here to wrap this podcast up quick. So, how do they get the bad taste of Matt Ryan and Sam? Oh, excuse me. How do they get the bad taste of Matt Ryan and Sam Ehlinger out of their mouth here? And I think the answer is with Anthony Richardson. He's raw, but he's exciting. And the Colts owner straight up said this dude's going to be playing. So he said there's no way that he can't play because he needs the rep. He's going to get his lumps. He's going to take those. That's something that there's nothing we can do about. But the magic and the growth that comes with that is going to be worth it for him in the end. So also, question I have for him is, how is Michael Pittman Jr. going to perform with a rookie quarterback there? Especially when he has the ability to just break down and not necessarily throw it up to him because Michael Pittman's a monster, but he might play breakdown, Anthony Richardson, get out of the pocket, make something happen on his own. And then finally, can Alex Pierce, the wide receiver they took last year, take the next step? I know there was a lot of expectations for him coming out. People call him the second coming of Cooper Kupp. Last year, it didn't really happen like that. But again, they were picking 4th overall, so their team struggled kind of everywhere. They couldn't really run the ball, even with Jonathan Taylor back there. Matt Ryan got sacked all the time. He's a statue. Didn't really have anybody else outside wide receiver. Like Alex Pierce, like I said, he struggled. Michael Pittman Jr. was there. He was okay, but they really didn't have a game breaker. Jelani Woods is a man of a man, and so he needs to take the next step as well. But, we'll see how that happens. They got a scary-looking offense down there in Indianapolis now. So for draft questions here, I'm really excited to watch Anthony Richardson. He's my pick for the offensive rookie of the year here. I think he's going to have a phenomenal season. He's going to make some mistakes, some throws he wish he had back, but I think he's just going to be special enough that he edges out everybody else and wins the offensive rookie of the year. I also like Darius Rush, the corner they took out of South Carolina. I wish the Jets had room for him. They could have brought him on somehow, but I think that would have been a wasted pick this year. But he is one of my favorite corners coming out of the draft. So let's see if he can stay healthy, continue his development. And if he can, watch out for him next year. With that, I want to apologize for the technical difficulties, but we'll get it fixed. We'll be all right. And thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Not Your Average Tea Time podcast. I'll talk to you soon.